This was my Jupiter animation that I posted a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to show you exactly how I did this. It took ages to do, but I think it was worthwhile doing, and it's quite fun to try and do something like this, although it's very dependent on having good seeing and a really good data set to achieve good results. This evening we're back on the planets and the Cassegrain's out again, and we're on Jupiter at the moment, and I'm going to try and do an animation of Jupiter rotating, so we'll see how that goes. Usual setup, so it's the classical Cassegrain, and it's just on an EQ5 Pro mount which only has tracking motors, so I'm just tracking, and these are just controlled via pressing buttons on there. So we'll see how tonight goes. And there's the moon, and there's Jupiter. Just there, the shadow of one of Jupiter's moons, and there is the moon just about to appear on the side of the planet. And I've been taking these videos for about half an hour or so, and I've been watching the shadow move across and not really realizing that there's actually one of the moons there. So I'm going to keep taking these videos and see if I can see the moon actually appear on the other side. So you can clearly see the moon just on the left here, and the shadow that it's casting just there. And I've been tracking this over the last hour or so as it's crossed the surface of Jupiter. I ended up taking 200 gigabytes of video footage, which is a lot. That's a lot. It took ages to transfer. But then I realised I wasn't sure why I did that afterwards, thinking about it, because you don't need to take videos every 5 minutes. You can take them every sort of 15 minutes and then create an individual image from that video. These were all the videos, all of these SER files here, and I actually renamed some of them as well because I did so many of them and it was taking forever to do this animation of Jupiter. So the way I did the rotation of Jupiter is I stacked some of these videos. I didn't do them all in the end, so there were just too many of them. And then I processed them in Registax. It was the usual workflow in AutoStacker. I'm just going to choose a video, which I will drag and drop into Registax. And there we go. We can see Jupiter there, and we can actually see the moon there and the shadow of the moon just there. And we click it's a planet we want it to analyze. And I've got a quality graph. I've now got a quality graph here, and it shows me that the quality dipped quite remarkably there. So I'm probably only going to stack, I don't know, I think I'll probably go for 20. There, 20% of those. I'm going to leave all of these as default. On my alignment points, I'm going to just click place alignment points, and it's now chosen all of the best positions for me, which looks pretty good. And then I'm going to click do drizzle for 1.5 and then stack. And we can now see that in the source folder we have a %20 folder just there. So we double click in there and we have the files here. This is the one that we've just created. So we can see that that's the one that's been stacked just there. So we now need to load this into Registax 6. So I'll just drag and drop that into there. And then I want to see the full image. So that's the full image. And I have a scheme which I created for all of the rotations, which is here. And I'm just going to increase the noise reduction on these just to make it less noisy. That's looking better, it's less noisy. And then I go to RGB balance and click auto balance, and you can see that it's corrected the color there, so that's much better. Now I found that if you've got this box here, the Registack somehow leaves that in the actual image when you save it. So although I can see the processing area there, I'm actually going to click off, so it moves it off to one side, and then I'm just going to click do all, and it's now going across the image, and you'll see it step through the actual planet in a second. There you go, it's just on the top part, and in a second it'll go through the main part. But I found that then when you save the image, it won't have that large square box that we could see here. For some reason it was saving that box as well. There we go, so that looks much better. It's a bit sharper and it's got a bit more detail to it, which is good. Great, so I was now able to save this image of Jupiter off. I then loaded each of the Jupiter images into PixInsight because I wanted to bring out some more colour. To do that I used processes, all processes, and I went down to curves transformation, which is here, and then I went to the S, which is for saturation, and I opened a preview, and then I just boosted the colour saturation a bit to bring out a little bit more colour from the image. So that's what I'll do now. After this process, I then saved them all off, and I wanted to then position them so that they all had the same rotation. And to do that, I used GIMP. I loaded all of the images into GIMP, and I then used GIMP to make sure that they all had the correct rotation. So I went through, and what I'm going to do now is just move my head, because my head is actually in the way. There we go, so I've moved my head to there. Cool. So what I then did is I used layers, and each of these is a different layer with a different rotation. So if I deselect this one, you'll see the planet rotate. So each time I did this, the planet rotated. And you can see that from doing this, I could position them so that you can actually animate the planet going all the way along until the end. That was the last frame, that one there. Once I was happy that I'd positioned all of these and they all had roughly the same rotational positioning, I then used the export function and I exported each of them as an individual frame. So I went through and deselected each one, and then I exported that, then I deselected the next one and I exported that, and I went through until I basically had all 23 files that you see here exported into a folder. I use for my video editing a program called Lightworks, and Lightworks is free because I'm cheap and I don't want to pay any licenses. I do everything, including every YouTube video that I've ever done. I've done it for free in Lightworks. All you have to do is register your email address and it's free. So great, brilliant. I used Lightworks to create the animation, which was basically a video. I imported all of the images and then I put them all on a timeline, and I've realized my head is in the way again, so I'm going to move me back. There we go. And basically each of these is just an image with a dissolve between it. So each of these is just an image with a dissolve. So I've got an image, dissolve, and so on. And when you play it through, it allows you to animate. Now you can also do this in pip as well, but I quite liked doing this manually so you could actually see it rotating through like this. And once I'd done that and exported the video, I then imported the same video again but here, and then played it back at different speeds, so I could now play it backwards. So it's gone forwards and backwards, which it's now doing up here. So it's now going backwards. And that is how I created my Jupiter animation. It took ages to do. And I've wanted to do this for a while. And I think if I'm to do this again, I really want to nail my imaging, because although this is a cool image and I'm really pleased with it, there's loads of artifacts. I found also that I really needed to take flats so I could remove any dirt and dust in the imaging chain. But I'm really pleased with having been able to capture the transit of one of Jupiter's moons, and I think that's cool. It's hard work and there are a lot of stages, but I think it's well worth doing, particularly if you can get a really good data set of images of Jupiter.